Hello, and welcome to Wannabe. Today, we're diving into the world of fitness and inclusivity with Tig Hodson, the co-founder of Strongher. Tig is revolutionising the fitness industry by addressing its glaring gaps in representation. With Strongher, she's creating a space that's as focused on mental well-being as it is on physical strength. Today, we'll delve into her journey from having no role models to becoming one, her take on the current fitness landscape, and why representation in fitness is so important. Get ready for an empowering session. Who did you want to be before you became who you are today, and why?
My honest is that I didn't have anybody to really look up to. I didn't see anybody that looked like me. However, I say that the one person that I would say, but it's of a younger mindset, was Beyonce. But that's not
It's a popular answer.
But that's literally because she was everywhere. And I love music, I love dancing, and it was just seeing a woman of that stature with that much, I suppose, power and that much presence. Mm-hmm. And they were everywhere. But in terms of like sport or business or anything like that, I couldn't give you anybody.
Thank you for your honesty on that anyway, because I think the lack of representation across the board is really telling, and does mean that often we, or people that look like us, have to be like one of the first, or the first kind of breakthrough or cut through. But in spite of that, you still kind of chose the path that you've chosen.
Yes.
Like, can you start from
why?
How did that begin? Like, what was the catalyst? What was the moment?
So I was really, really sporty when I was a child in school, and was that annoying kid that was like the captain of the netball team and swam for county and was like, oh my gosh, can we do more sports? I was that kid. But I got to a point in school where I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with sport. I don't know what to do with fitness. Like, I don't want to be an Olympic athlete and I don't want to be a PE teacher.
Why didn't you want to be an Olympic athlete?
Because at that time I was like, I have to dedicate my entire life, and also subconsciously, which I didn't realize, is that again I didn't see anybody. So I was like, it's quite, I suppose at that age and at that time, it's quite overwhelming to be like, oh well, if I can't see anybody, then I'm going to go and be in a team, or I'm going to be with a thing, and I'm the only black person or mixed race person. So I moved away from that and went into dance, because I enjoyed dance, but also I saw more people that looked like me doing dance. And it was then I went to uni and did no sports, and moved to London. And when I came back from uni, traveled around the world, like dancing, stuff like that. And somebody was like, oh, like, you should be a PT. And I was working as a receptionist in LA Fitness. And I was like, oh no, I can't be a PT. Like, I've never lifted a weight in my life, which is really bizarre, because I'd be the person that was like, let's do more sports. So that kind of contrast of a person, something obviously jarred me that day or that week or whatever it was, and I was like, why am I afraid of weight training? Why don't I like it? And that was the catalyst. It wasn't necessarily anything to do with, at that point, me or the way I looked. It was the fact that I was afraid of something that I used to do. Like, I used to champion sports, and right now in this moment I was like, no, and I don't like feeling like I'm not capable of doing something. So then I spoke to this guy at work, and I was like, right, you need to teach me what to do with weights. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I remember squatting for the first time on this Reebok step, but it was awful. And I was like, oh. And then I decided to become a PT, because I was like, I need to know. Like, I don't like not knowing. So if I become a PT, then I know. And it helped. Like, I got my qualification. And then it was through the first couple of years of being a PT, working in the fitness industry, that then because of the person I am, because of how loud I am, and my need and want to help people, I worked at a lot of studios, and a lot of boutique studios, I will say. And again, when I looked at it, or stepped back and looked at it, I was like, everybody's white in these studios. We got booked to do like fitness events, and there was a clear contrast or clear difference between boutique studios in London and the demographic that was there, and then what I would say is more within the black community is like dance fitness. I won't say dance fitness, but like there's more like soca vibes.
Soul.
Like it's more music orientated. And that was probably the first point where I realised the different, like how white or how much lack of representation there was in the strength space.
It sounds like there's like just a difference of attitude. Representation or lack of representation is like contributing to not engaging. Do you see that just more on, like, I guess, like gender lines? Because I would imagine that black men are doing weights. I don't go to the weight section because I'm like, what business do I have there? This just feels like a male space.
No!
That's what it feels like. And no, I know this is literally your ministry in life.
Here.
Yes, I know. So like, this is why it's so interesting talking to you, because I'm like, is it just, I guess there's intersections. So is it the intersection of just like something that's just like dominated by men, and then also women and women of colour in particular that are just like, nah.
Yeah, there's kind of like a double down effect. Like you've got one layer and then you've got another layer. So yes, there's definitely black men that do weight training, but I will say more black men do bodybuilding.
Right.
Less black men, or I say less black men, but it's not broadcasted, it's not represented in functional fitness, in CrossFit, which is mainly my domain now. I've done bodybuilding and there was a lot of black men in that for sure. But in terms of what is, I say, trending right now, or what is being pushed out more and spoken about more, is more functional, which is obviously making sure you can just move for life rather than aesthetics.
Right, okay.
There's less black men, I would say, in that sport. And similarly then, there's a knock on, there's less like black women in functional strength training. Like it's really, I go to another gym, obviously I own my own, and I go to another one, and I'm sometimes the only woman, and I'm absolutely the only brown woman. Every time I go in, every time. And I'm like, that for me is like alarming. And then you've got just, if you're going to a regular gym, a gym is just stark and it's cold and it's not inviting. So for women going into that space, again, you've got that level of like, okay, this isn't inviting. This isn't something I want to get involved with. And men are in it. Then the amount of
men being in it is a really big put off,
one.
I'm not going to lie.
And then on top of that, there isn't that sense of like, I'm going to say community and like being involved, and you're just kind of like stand alone, and it's just, there's so many levels in it.
And then I'm guessing even with the work that you're doing, and you must be having an impact, and I definitely want to know about the impact that you are having with Strongher and just the wider work that you're putting into this. But like, even with the impact, you must be butting up against apprehension and resistance from people. And what like, how do you navigate that?
I'm going to say we don't really come up against resistance in like people come to us and they don't want to be part of it, just because our messaging and what we say is what we say. So you either identify with it or you don't.
Sure.
Like, I'm not here to be like, you must come to the gym, you must be stronger. Some people will look at the website, will look at what we do on Instagram and be like, do you know what? I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that community. And that would be the thing that we kind of put out first and foremost, is like, be part, like, we're a fun, inviting space for anybody from anywhere. That's the thing that draws people in. Then obviously you've got then the element of strength training, and we're going, look, anybody from anywhere, any colour, any age, any ability level can be here and is welcome here, which again is not something that you get in any fitness space. So that's kind of the trickle down. So we don't suppose we get resistance. What we do get, our biggest thing is people will change when they're in the environment, but you have to give them permission, and you have to allow there to be an accessible route for them to be in that environment, which is what a lot of fitness spaces don't do. It's kind of like, if you can't pay this and if you don't look like this, then you're not welcome here. Whereas we're like, the door's wide open, come in. You might have different ways of looking at things now. Like, people come in and like, I want to lose body fat and I don't want to eat carbs, all that sort of stuff. Whereas obviously if they're in Strongher, then we have a way to subtly infiltrate that mindset and be like, all food is great, lifting weights is great, making like fitness, strength training is fun, it's not intimidating, and gradually over time, like, their beliefs and the way that they approach things will be different. So I wouldn't say there's resistance of people like, I'm not doing it. It's when they come in, they're like, oh, I'm not sure, but I want to be part of this. And then they grow and they change with us.
I actually want to know how you go about cultivating safety and how you build inclusion into this work. Because I'm in this space, but I do it for audio. I'm currently actively fighting for equality in audio.
Yeah.
And that is exhausting work. It is additional labour. It is not something that often our more privileged and often whiter
Yeah.
peers in the industries that we occupy have to think about or even consider. I know some of them do, they're allies, and that's great, and we love that for them. Love that for us and for them. But the reality is, it is just like an additional thing to think about. I don't want to call it a burden, and sometimes it can feel that way. But it's a thing to think about, and it's often the part of the work that is at least not necessarily as financially rewarding, because you're having to support different types of people from different backgrounds or being as welcoming as you can. But how do you go about kind of doing that work? And obviously it's very important to you. It's part of your origin story as well.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that work, and also just kind of like keeping yourself grounded in that work as well?
Oh, that is a heavy question.
I'm so sorry. You lift weights, so
I know, yeah. So I should
I believe in you.
Because my mind was going to like the team first rather than necessarily our community. I'm going to say it starts from ground up. It doesn't start from ground up. It starts from top down. So both myself and my co-founder, Sam, obviously on a face value, I'm mixed race, which is one thing you don't necessarily see as a business owner, as a fitness business owner. Sam is also queer, which is not necessarily, that's not something you see, but it's something that she is. So then when we now are kind of portraying what we talk about or the people that we hire and the community that we build from in terms of a staff, I don't even know if I'm actively aware, but it's definitely something where the team we have, I've chosen them, especially the coaches. I've chosen all of them because there's something about their story. There's something that I'm like, right, you could connect with this group of people. You could connect with this group of people. You could connect with this group of people. And I have made decisions before where I've been like, this person who I'm going to hire is absolutely amazing. However, I already got somebody like that. So, and again, it's creating that representation through whether what you look like or your gender or your sexuality. It's creating that representation there for them to then have the conversations and be willing to talk about that, which then attracts the next layer and level. And then equally, we all learn from each other. Recently, we had a trans awareness training because we were like, this is something that we're being asked as a company and as a business, and we all need to do more and we need to learn more in this area. But every single person in that room, some people are very clued up on it, some people are not. And I think we have to be willing to be like, we don't know everything right now, but we are willing to learn. And also by having people from different places, spaces, and different backgrounds and different sexualities, different genders as part of our core means that then somebody might say something and it might be offensive. It's like, that wasn't appropriate for you to say. But we can have those conversations between us, which then makes it more comfortable to have those conversations with our community and with people that come in and be more understanding with that. And I think if you don't have that, which a lot of top level companies do not, then there's no way this whole, we're going to make our company more diverse and inclusive. It's like, but is it at the top? Because if it's not at the top and it's not trickled down through your middle management and you're not also willing to be like, we're doing this and we're learning from each other, then there's no way it's gonna happen at the bottom.
I love that you said that there's actually it's not that it's something that you think about, but it is something that you think about whether you do it consciously or unconsciously. Because I understand that and empathize with it, because it's just like, well, I know that I want everyone here. And so everyone has to kind of be here.
Yeah, I can't say let's have an inclusive brand and then not have an inclusive brand. But also then it's really hard to not do that whole thing where you're just trying to hit a quota. Be like, oh, well, we don't have this person here. Like and I don't choose people for that reason. It's that
it's just a consideration.
Yes.
You're creating something that is going to be meaningful and impactful and really change lives. And that's ultimately the goal of Strongher. Like, that is the goal. Just listening to what you're saying, it's like there isn't enough places which that's like, come be you and come as you are. The closest I've had to that is I did pole last year, and pole is so empowering.
Oh my gosh,
I actually love it.
And it's also it's so painful.
So painful. Like, so much friction is involved in pole. They do not warn you, and you do that really early on as well. You're like, you'll get used to it. I'm like, but I don't want to. I don't want like weird thigh skins. But also like I think kind of the only way I can kind of understand what you're saying about with strength training is like, I didn't like when you go to pole, or when I went to pole, it's like,
you're kind of immediately doing moves, almost like in the first session. You're like,
Yes.
I had no idea my body could do that.
Yeah.
And so I do, every time I've gone, I've always left feeling like, oh my God, like, I'm kind of amazing.
badass.
My body is actually kind of like sick at stuff. Like I lifted my whole body weight
Yes.
onto a pole.
Yes.
And then I actually moved it into different positions. Not beautifully and definitely not sexily. But
nevertheless,
it got to the position that I was meant to get to. And so I definitely think like there are definitely like gateways into, or like, as you say, like people come to you when they're like, almost they've gone on that journey, or they're on the route to that journey of like I know my body can do more, or I know my body's capable of more,
but they just don't know what the method is.
What the method is for them.
Yes, and this is as I was going to say then, like, you know, it could people can move, like movement. For me anyway, any movement is valid. Like it doesn't have to be strength training. But the thing is, and kind of what you've just said, is that people don't know, or women don't know, that they can do strength training.
I do not ask this question of every guest. Like, I ask it of the people that I just get the sense that like you've gone above and beyond what is called of you or what is required of you even. Where do you get your audacity from?
I would only consider myself probably audacious in the last year. And I've always been loud, and I've always in spaces where I feel comfortable, I've always been like, blah, 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 blah. So when I started to come into the fitness space, I was like, I'm Tig, like that's my persona. I'm energetic, I bounce around, blah, blah, blah. And actually when I created Strongher with Sam, that also was when I was like, this is my space. Like I can do what I want here. Therefore I can speak more freely, and people are choosing to come here. So if you're choosing to come, then you're choosing to listen to what I've got to say, and this is what I'm going to say. But I would say probably in the last year has been like where I've been like, it's almost like I'm tired of not seeing what I want to see. So if I can't see it, then I need to change it.
And that's a wrap. If you know someone that would benefit from the knowledge and wisdom shared in this episode, please do share it with them now. To keep up with Wanna Be, follow us along on your favourite podcast player or app, or follow at Content is Queen HQ on Instagram for the latest updates and episode releases. Until next time, bye.